Welcome to the MyClayCo studio. My name is Carla and today I'm going to be taking you through how to make a charcuterie board. I'm talking paddle, cheese, meats, fruits, all of it. So I'm going to dive straight into the planning of it so that we can then systematically go through and create each of our items out of polymer clay. Let's get into it. Okay, so I have made a little plan for today, much like if I was making my own cheese platter or charcuterie board in real life to eat, I would actually list out all of my things and just make sure that I've got everything covered. I did also do a little sketch because I wanted to see what kind of paddle I wanted to put it on, and I think it will work really well as a rectangular paddle, especially for earrings. So I'm going to be using this rectangular cutter today. Apart from that though, the only other cutter that I'm going to use is just some micro circle cutter tools for the crackers. Everything else I'm going to be hand sculpting. So first off, we need our base. So let's get started with our paddle. To get started, we need our wood for the paddle board. So I'm going to just do one little thing to it before I actually cut it out and put some texture on it. And that is go over it with some soft pastels. Now you're going to see this as a reoccurring theme in today's video because I use soft pastels when I am coloring miniatures all the time. So I'm going to be reaching for these a lot. So if you don't have soft pastels, you can use things like mica powders, pigment powders, or even chalks you could potentially get away with. You just want to make sure that you're trying to get matte ones so they look a little bit more realistic than mica powders, which can be like shimmery. But yes, soft pastels are really handy to have. So I'll be using this a lot. Because my wood is kind of like a warm walnut type look, I'm actually going to go in with this darker color. And all you generally do is just shave a little bit off with a craft knife. And then you would put it onto your clay. What I'm actually going to do, because we want this to be like a faux wood grain, is I'm going to shave kind of directly onto my clay, just roughly. And then to get that kind of wood effect, you actually make sure you're going in one direction and the direction that you would want the wood grain on your cutter, and you just drag your finger along it. And that creates this kind of discoloration that is very, very reminiscent of wood. So what I'm actually going to do is flip it over and do it on the other side as well, because I want these cheese boards to look nice from both sides. Okay, now that I've got that sorted, I'm just going to roll this one down so it's burnished. And that means I can go in with my cutter. All right, so I've got both of my paddles, but I actually want to add some texture to these ones. So what I am going to do while they are stuck down on this side, I'm going to take this tool, which just has a lot of little metal prongs on it. It's kind of like using a needle tool, except multiple needle tools at the same time. You could go over this with a needle tool to get some texture in it. It might just take you a bit longer than actually doing it with one of these. So you can see here, it's a small detail, but it's one that adds a lot of realism to your pieces. So I really like doing this step. It's pretty quick and simple. If you do get any like little balls of clay, you just need to wipe them off just so you don't have them on the surface. But otherwise, we're going to flip these over and we're going to do it on the other side, and then I'm going to put it on its baking surface. Okay, so I've finished these two now, and as you can see, both sides I have done up with the texture and the color. So I'm going to put these on my baking surface because we're actually going to build directly on top of these. What I will say is, because I want to make both sides look nice, I'm not going to bake on the tile because then it will get shiny spots. If you do get shiny spots from a tile, you can always clean it up with, say, like an acetone after it's baked. However, that is going to eat away at our beautiful texture and coloration that we have just done. So I don't want to do that. So I'm just popping it onto a simple piece of printer paper. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow it to get baked without any shiny spots on it. Okay, paddles are done. Moving on to cheeses. So I could probably make an entire video on different kinds of cheeses out of polymer clay. If you did want to see that video, pop a comment down below, let us know, because I 100% would love to do that. But in terms of today's video, I'm actually just going to quickly show you how to do a brie cheese, because I do think it is like one of the more complex ones to get right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my paddles in here, because I just want to use this as a size reference throughout the make, just to make sure I'm not making anything too big or too small so that they don't fit right. Now, the first thing I have done is gotten a piece of clay that looks kind of like the inside of brie cheese. I am just going to add a little bit of white to it though, just to lighten it up. Okay, so I've just lightened that one slightly. Now this one is a technique that you can use for any kind of wrapped cheese, so like all multicolored. So brie or camembert style cheese is yellow on the inside and it has that kind of white rind on the outside. So I'm going to make a cheese and then wrap it. So what I want to do is I've got my micro circle cutter tools, and I'm just going to pick one that I think is a good size to be slightly smaller than the cheese I want to put on here, because I'm going to cut it and then wrap it. So I think the yellow size will be good. So whatever depth I kind of want for my cheese, I'm just going to lightly press that out. So I think that's probably going to be a good cheese depth. And the good thing about making food is that if it's organic looking and it's not perfect round shape, that's actually great, because most things aren't. So as you can see here, they look quite tall for their size. So I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller, just by pressing it down. Again, it doesn't matter if you're not doing things perfectly. Yeah, and that is probably a better size for what I want. Okay, so to wrap these ones, I now want to roll out some white clay really, really thin. Okay, so I've got really thin white clay, like probably less than 1 millimeter now. So what I'm going to do is get a cutter that is quite a bit bigger, almost double the size of what your previous one was, or you can hand cut this. And I'm just going to take that white round and one of my cheeses, and I'm going to wrap it. And now this is the part that you might think is weird, because we're losing our shape, and that's totally okay. We just really wanted that to kind of get the final size. So what I'm going to do is completely seal up this white clay around that yellow clay. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to reform it by just rolling it in my hands like this. And then I'm going to squish it down. And as you can see here, it's looking a little bit more like the shape of a brie. What I am going to do though is just bring in a ball tool just to get some extra detail. So I've got this size ball tool here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to press in the center a little bit, because I do find that with like bries and camemberts and that, they kind of have like a bit of a sunken top. So it just adds to that realism. And then I'm going to run around the side as well, because it is also kind of like sunken in around the sides too. Okay, so I think I'm liking the shape of this one now. I might just flip it over so that I can get a nice shape on the bottom. Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do now is just get my needle tool, and they kind of have these indents on the top of them, I think from sitting on racks. So all I get is my needle tool and I just kind of draw it along the top. To kind of make that indent on it. Now I'm going to give it a slight yellow tinge, just using another soft pastel. So I'm going to take my yellow soft pastel and it's going to be very, very, very light. So just going to get one of these, which we don't actually stock these, but I really want to. I just have to convince Tegan. They're kind of like these grippy handle things. And then you can put any kind of foam or cotton or anything like that in the top. And it's really good for lightly coloring because brushes can sometimes get too much pigment caught in the top of them. And so I'm just going to brush along the yellow on the top, and then I'll just lightly be able to put some on it. Kind of tends to have a bit around the edges. Okay, and that is my brie cheese. And I'm actually going to finish my second one and then I'll pop them into the fridge just while I'm doing the other things to cool down before I slice into it, because I am going to put this on the cheese board with a slice taken out so that they can see all the lovely hard work that we've done inside. Okay, cheese is in the fridge. Let's move on to meats. All I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really quick cane. So salami is generally like peppered with like fat bits. So I'm just going to roll these out into logs and then I'm just going to kind of squish them together. Okay, so I don't need like a heap of salami, so I'm going to do just a small log. So I think I'm just going to chop this into kind of like the size that my salami log will be. And I kind of like them being all different, like organic widths. That's why I don't really use an extruder, just because it gives it a little bit more realism. And so then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some of this translucent and I'm just going to put it kind of in between where the red is. Okay, so as you can see here, I've kind of got it all throughout. I'm just kind of squishing it a bit together. I am going to wrap this with red around the outside just because I'm not going to have any like fat on the outsides really. So I'm just kind of squishing it, making it into a little log. And I just want to cut into it to see kind of what we're working with. And you can see here, it's not really smattered throughout. So what we're going to do is we're going to elongate this and then we're going to kind of do that same thing, putting 4 pieces together. So I'm just expanding this one. And you can kind of twist as well while you're going. I'm going to chop it in half. And then in half again. And I'm just going to put all these pieces together. Squish and roll. And then chop to see what we're working with. Okay, that's a little bit better. So I think I'm okay with that. So I've got really like paper thin wrap here. Okay, I've got a log of salami, so I'm going to go and put that in the fridge with my cheese. Now in terms of ham, I've just kind of got this like pink ham color, and I've just kind of moved some translucent through it very randomly. And then I have mixed white and translucent together, and I'm just going to kind of cap it with this kind of fat layer. Very roughly, doesn't need to be perfect at all. So I've kind of got this like ham log, and all I'm going to do, I actually like gypsy leg ham, which is what we have here at our shops. I don't know what you guys might call it, but it's got this kind of like black charcoal layer all the way around it. So I'm just going to get my pastels, and it's not quite black, so I'm going to mix a bit of that dark brown into it as well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to coat all around the outside so that when I cut slices of it, I'm going to have this really nice kind of rind around it, but then we'll still be able to see this like fat layer. Okay, that one is done. I'm going to put it in the fridge with the rest of them and wash my hands. Okay, onto the grapes. Okay, and we are back with translucent clay, micro circle cutter tools, and I'll be using the soft pastels again. So I've just kind of got this size, which I think will make for good grapes. I'm just going to stamp them all out, and then I'm going to round them just by going over them with my finger. I've got a bit of something else in my translucent clay, so I'm just not going to cut from that bit, but let's get cutting these grapes. Okay, so I'm probably not going to need this many grapes, so I've just rolled out probably half of them. If I need more as I'm going, then I'll do that. I think I'm actually going to do green grapes and sapphire grapes, which sapphire grapes are those like really long, funny looking kind of purple ones. So I'm going to work on coloring them now with some soft pastels. Now the trick that you want with coloration of them is to try and get some unevenness. So some that are slightly lighter green, some that are slightly darker green, just so it gives it a little bit more realism. If you ever need to, while you're creating miniatures, it's always nice just to have a little reference picture of what you're creating up, like a photograph, and then you can keep referring back to it until you're comfortable with making sure that you're getting all the right details, because it's those little details that can make them go from like good to more realistic. Okay, and that's those ones done. On to crackers. Crackers are super easy, micro circle cutter tool, and I think I'm only going to put maybe 3 on each board of the round ones, and then I'm also going to put some rectangular ones. So I'll cut those ones out, and then the rectangles, I'm just going to hand cut those. I've just separated all of those out so I can get to the edges of them, because I'm going to just color over them a little bit. But first I just want to do a little bit of shaping just so that they're not just all cut pieces. So I'm just going to round the corners of these rectangles. I'm also going to take the extra step of just crimping around the outside of these circle ones. I'm then going to make the surface of them slightly more uneven, just with this kind of, it's a dotting and shaping tool. So this is the dotting tool. And this also helps flatten them a little bit and get less of a uniform shape. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to put the little holes in place. So I think these ones might have 5. Okay, so I've got my crackers with their little holes in them. So now the final step is just coloring them. So again, I'm gonna take my little grabby tool. Still got some yellow on it, that's fine, because we kind of want to do a fine layer of yellow first before we go in with a darker color to color this one. So I'll get my yellow and just rub that one on there and give it a light coating. And we want to do all of the cutting and like shaping and everything before we color. Coloring should be last because the coloring needs to go all the way around the edges and everything. So you can only really do that once they're all cut. And my classic combo for anything that's like crackers or pastry is I use acrylic clay and then I go in with a yellow just to give that surface coloring. And then to make it look like it's more baked, I go in with this like reddy brown just around the edges. You can also go in with like an orange type color, which is really good for if you're doing like less baked pieces. But I really like this, the toastiness that this brown gives it. If your pieces are too close together as well, you can always move them while you're coloring. And all you want to do for coloring it darker is just get the edges. You don't really want to go too much in the center. It's all just about crisping those edges like a real cracker would get baked. Okay, and that's all my little crackers. So now we're pretty much up to the final step, which is going to be putting all of the pieces together. Now I did mark down chutney because I might make a chutney bowl, but I generally do that with UV resin because I want it to be like very translucent. So I'll see if the boards need them after I've put everything else on. But for now, let's go get our goodies from the fridge. So I have my items from the fridge. You do want to work from lightest to darkest because if I try and cut this one first, I might get black on my brie wheels. So I'm going to work from the brie first, and all I'm going to do is just slice into this one. And as you can see here from this slice, we have that beautiful brie kind of cross section. Okay, so as you can see now, that is a beautiful piece of brie, and we can see inside, and it's got that kind of discoloration on the top with those lines. So now I'm just going to take my cheeses and I'm going to put them on my paddle boards first. I think I'm going to situate them further up this side. Now these extra little bits of brie, you can always keep these because if you make another pair of cheeseboard earrings that is maybe just cheese, you could pop these on as two already completed cheese pieces. Okay, for the salami, I'm just going to slice into it. And as you can see, it's almost like a cabana type salami. So I might do thicker slices of this one. If I wanted to do a thinner salami, I'll just show you. I would probably get my salami and then take a ball tool. So this one I've just flattened with the ball tool, and as you can see, it's much more like salami. So you can make 3 different types of cured meat out of this log. So chorizo, pepperoni, and salami. I'm gonna see what works better on my board. I could do salami slices, but I actually think that this kind of chorizo, however you want to say it, I think this actually works a bit better. So yeah, I'm gonna cut some slices of this and I'm gonna put it on there. To slice this one, I'm just gonna use my tissue blade. You can see that. So once we've done it, I'm actually gonna texture this one so it's not just like pink, white, and black. And then I'm just going to take my needle tool. I'm actually going to cut into some of the slices and just kind of make it look a little bit more like ham wood. Okay, then final step before I'm actually going to put it on is just taking a little bit of red pastel and ever so slightly just putting some different color on the ham just so it's not all one tone. So then in terms of placement, I'm just going to pick up one of my slices and I'm going to try and like fold it so it looks a little bit more like ham. Okay, so I've got my meats and cheese now on my board. So I think now I'm just going to put some grapes on, and crackers will be my last thing that I'm going to put on. So I think I need some green kind of in here to break up all that red, and then I might do the purple ones further on the outside. Okay, the grapes are on and I just filmed a little bit of a reel to put these crackers on the edge. I think I'm going to put the purple grapes around here just so I don't have grapes and grapes together. So purple grapes here, and then I could put another couple of the rectangular crackers there, and then I think that's them done. Okay, I think I'm done. So the final step that I want to do is just put a couple of holes up the top in my cheese board, which I can do with my micro circle cutter tools. That's them done, ready to go in the oven. So they're out of the oven. I just want to do a test with my grapes. I know that this one was loose, but all the others have stayed on. This one here is loose. All the others are secure though. So I'm just going to come in with just a bit of super glue because I'm about to glaze over these. So I just want to use some varnish. You can use UV resin, whatever like glossy look that you want to do. That's what we're going to do on these ones. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of super glue and stick those grapes back on, because they do have the powder on them, and then once they're back on, I can glaze over the top. All right, we'll let those dry and then we will glaze. For the varnish, I'm just going to be adding a Pearl X varnish onto just the grapes because they're the only thing that I kind of want to have a glossy look to them. So I'm just going to pop this on top and then let it dry, and then I can put them together as earrings. I hope you enjoyed the video today and that you can now create your own cheese boards, charcuterie boards, breakfast boards. The world is your oyster. Go for it. We would love to see what you create. So don't forget, you can always tag us on socials. If you had any questions about the video, you can pop a comment down below and we will see you next time. Bye.